welcome back to another episode of the Releasing a Genius podcast, where we interview extraordinary people and we try to figure out exactly how they got there.
So when we talk about releasing the genius, we're all looking at what is it inside a person that's their own genius. And this whole podcast was created because we wanted to find those people who have actually found it. And if we can find the genius in people, then maybe other people can learn from them and release their own genius. And once we release the genius in people in this world, then the genius of the world can be realized.
Yeah, now this next guest that we have for today, I've had dinner with her in Karachi. We've had dinner here in Toronto and Mississauga. So this is what everyone would say is a living legend, Bushra Ansari. She is a Pakistani actress, comedian, singer, and playwright who started her career as a child performer in the 1950s. Bushra Ansari won numerous awards during her career, including the Presidential Pride of Performance Award in 1989 for her contributions in the arts of Pakistan. In her career, she released a rap album full of parodies of famous songs and has been a judge for Pakistan's biggest singing talent hunt show, Pakistan Idol, and has devoted her life for doing shows for charities worldwide. And as I said earlier, in Pakistan, she is known as a living legend. And whenever she visits Toronto, people are combating to take selfies with her. So welcome, Bushra. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And Nitin, now you have done a good homework about me. That's very nice.
This is really exciting, Bushra, to be here. And we're going to be looking at your life a little bit and maybe seeing some things that other people may not know about you. Yes, Bushra is a superstar in Pakistan and globally. People do know her. And it's getting to know Bushra, really who she is. She's an amazing person. When you look at her values and what she's done in her life, she's kept her values no matter what attention has been given to her throughout her life. And I think this is something that is so profound, and especially these days where people lose the track of what's really important in their lives. I also think your brilliance, Bushra, is just even as a child and what you were able to do, and then what you were able to do, you just kept doing more and more and more. So let's not keep talking about you. Let's have you talk about you for a little while, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim. Start as a child, because you even started as a child, as a young child, as an actress or as an actor, I guess we say now, as a young child. What were you like? What allowed you to get there?
Actually, when I was born, I think at that time, maybe whenever I just had something in my mind and maybe I became some kind of conscious kid, I thought I will be a singer because we all sing. 4 sisters and 1 brother, we can all sing. I mean, good, bad, worst, whatever, but we are very much into music. So I thought I'll be a singer. It's so easy to be a singer because I used to sing everything. Everyone was singing at home. And at the age of 9, in 1968, I insisted my mom to take me to television station for singing in a children's program, which was very popular at that time. So that's how I thought, and I was so confident that I can go and I can sing. And in one audition, I was selected. And the music director who was conducting the show, I just sang one phrase and he said, "Oh, okay," because I was, over extra talented in those kids which were around us. He said, "No, it's okay." I said, "No, I will sing you the whole song. You have to listen to it." He said, yeah. He was just shocked. Wow, what kind of a kid she is. She's so talented and she's so confident. I said, no, let me finish the whole song. I will sing you. Anyway, so, and I was acting side by side because I was singing fairy songs and queens and princesses song with acting. So it was so natural to me. I never thought about that I have to do this. I was doing it. So by doing that, I was getting trained because in Pakistan, you don't have any academies, no proper schools. Now they are, but at that time, it was not there. So that's how I started. And actually, the one thing I always think about that, I had 2 elder sisters. They were 5 years up.
Yeah.
And 2 younger brother and sister. They were 5 and 6 years younger. So I was in the middle.
Oh, wow.
And I used to think, I'm I'm useless. Nobody wants me. Because the elder sister used to say, go, 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 the kids, play with kids. And I didn't like the kids. So I made my own place in my house. I created my own world with dolls, with their embroideries. I used to dress up them every day. I used to change their clothes, and I used to do the swing, and used to do the embroidery. So these were many things. I think I trained myself for that, and I just stood up for my own self.
My goodness, that's something I think for everyone to remember. Now, you're to be like that as a child. Do you think your parents had anything to do with this?
No, actually, the good thing was that my father, who was a very renowned journalist, but he was a very learned man, and he studied filmmaking from Hollywood. And he had a lot of knowledge about music, and the classical music, very strong one. So in our house, literature and music, they were like sports. My father never said that this is not the thing you are going to do, or this is bad, or whatever. But he was a bit scared, or maybe you can say some kind of conservative regarding sending the daughters to perform or do these things. Because I was a young kid, he sent me. But after a few years, he said, no, 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 let's stop it now. You concentrate on your studies. So they encouraged me in a way, but we could not. Other than me, my sisters were also very talented, but we were not so we were not so free to do everything. We were just in a condition that you can go and perform in only children's program, and you will be back before sunset by 5 o'clock. So we had so many difficult and strict rules in our house. So then I got the chance because I got married to a director, and he was okay with that. And whatever I wanted to do, I wanted to sing or act. And after I got married in 78, then I was, free to do everything. That was the time. I think it's now, I think, 42 years. From that time onwards, I'm working.
Oh my goodness. So when 42 years of working, okay, I'm not going to ask how old you are. So, okay.
I was a year old when I got married.
Okay. I think I'd like to go back to your childhood then with your father. That would have been very interesting because he was a famous journalist. He thought leader in so many ways. And what
Yeah.
was that like to live with that and have a father who was so famous?
Actually, in any girl or boy's life, when you start life, any child, you have a role model in life. Sometimes you have a role model in your father. Sometimes you have a role model in your mother. Your mother can be a hero too. So in our lives, our father was a role model because we now analyze his personality. He was such a committed person towards society, towards the family, very honest. He was so truthful that he was most of the time he was kicked out, been kicked out from the jobs, and he was very happy. See, I lost my job today because I wrote this against this. So he was such a truthful person, and otherwise he was extremely loving and devoted to the family. So and of course very talented, very learned, musical. So these are the qualities you want to see in your parent, as an honest person, as a strong person, as a brave person. So he had a lot of things, a lot of you can say inspirations in our lives. And I think sometimes I feel that he is no more from last 16 years, but he's always alive in ourselves. So I think I was very lucky. I've been very lucky. We are all very lucky to have a father like that.
Yes. Now, I'm just thinking to have that courage, you talk about your father with bravery, courage to tell the truth. He could have come back and just been so disheartened over it. So you as a small child, when you went in there and said, well, I'm going to sing the whole song, I think that's courage too, and it's a belief in yourself. Do you, it sounds like your father believed in himself, believed in what he was saying, and believed that it was important that he did what was right. Do you feel that really helped you in terms of what you did in your life going forward?
Yeah, actually, I'm telling you, he was conservative in some ways, but otherwise, in our house, we had all the freedom. We were singing, we were talking, we were doing a lot of things, reading. most literary people used to come to our house. Most journalists used to come to our house, and there was an atmosphere. I think now I think because at that time we never realized that what kind of privilege we have. I mean, now as grown-ups, we think that we've been lucky to have a father like him, and the atmosphere and the people around us and the guests who were all the most of the time with my father. They were all very, very big poets and journalists and writers and playwrights and novel writers. So this was the atmosphere we got from him, and I think that has given us a lot of gifts from which we inherited from our father. So it's a blessing.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Nice.
So, can you talk a little bit about you as a teenager? How were you able to study and act at the same time?
Very bad in maths.
Oh, that's not
Sorry.
good.
I can give you some
Oh
lessons
my,
if you have
oh
time.
my God, Kim, I used to, my God, my teachers were like worried. And I mean, I was a very favorite kid of the school, because I was the number one thing in the dramatics. And I used to tell everyone to sing like this, to act like this. So I was the favorite one for the principal of my school. But my science teacher and my maths teacher, before the exam, they used to sit like this. What will happen to this girl? What would she do? If she fails in maths, then what will she do? Only 2 3 numbers for mathematics. The interesting thing is that I used to write a short note on the side of my paper that, madam, in my school, in my family, nobody is good at maths. We are all interested in performing arts, and we are all interested in music and literature. So my father and my grandfather and my aunt and everyone fails in the mathematics. So please excuse me for this.
Did it work?
No, one day the teacher called me. She said, "Listen, why do you write me letters on the examination papers?
Oh, that's
Why you make me? Don't write it." I said, I just wanted to tell you why I'm not good in mathematics. Sorry.
So you always try. You always
Yeah,
try.
but I just got 2 3 marks to just cross the class. That's
Okay,
it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
can you describe a little bit about your days? So, you weren't very good at math, but you were excellent in all the arts and so on.
Yeah.
How did you manage your time between acting and studying?
Actually, at that time, the school was so simple. I mean, we had only 5 to 6 periods, and we had a certain time after maybe 3 months. Some dramatic events was happening in the school, and I remember because I'm not properly trained for the classical music and the proper the training sort of thing, which is very proper. I used to just sing, and teachers used. I mean, they were just. I don't know how they were so confident about me. They used to give me a poetry, and they used to tell me, go and make a tune of that. You have to compose this. And I was in class 6. I used to say, okay. In the ground, we had a big ground under a tree. I used to sit and I used to just try to make a poetry's composition or maybe the tune. Then I come back to the teacher. She said, no, this is not going to make me a better one. I said, my God, I'm not a music composer. But I don't know, somehow this trust in me. So I used to take out time, but I had this privilege too, that between the studies, they took me out they gave me the time to get a break for the dramatics planning. And I used to go to any class. I said, I need you. The girls used to come, please take us in the place so that we can miss that class. so can you take me this evening for the rehearsal, and can you add me in your drama? I'll just stand at the behind. But please, you just tell people that I need this girl. They will not refuse you, because I was the director decide. So I used to come, ma'am, can I come? I said, yeah. Can I call her, because there's a role she has to do and I think she can do it. They said, okay. So this was how I used to enjoy this.
Oh, that's
This.
yeah, that's really neat. I think what's really interesting too is the fact that your teachers they didn't even
Yeah.
question whether you could do it or not, and they were looking for keeping you busy by the sounds of it. So
Yeah.
because they wanted you to do something better too with that music. So
Yeah.
what I'm wondering too is, so when you were actually composing these musics, did they use that in the plays when you were young?
No, no. Actually, we have music composers separately in Pakistan and India, and we just get the poetry first, then the composition, arrangements of the music. Then there's 2 3 stages. I don't compose music because I'm not a music composer. I'm just a singer. So I used to get a project from when I used to sing more in Pakistan television, national TV, which was government television sets like CBC or something. So I was when I was invited for a song to sing a song, they used to give me the poetry. Then they used to call the director, music director. He used to sing me the song, and then I used to learn, and then we had to record it. There are 4 stages. So I don't do that. I only sing, or I write, or I act in somebody's play, or sometimes written by me. So the plan is not initiated by me. Some other person, director or producer, whoever, he plans the project, then he invites whoever he wants to. So that's how I worked.
Oh, interesting. So now you write some of your own plays or some of your own shows, right? Can you tell us the process that it takes to be a writer for a show? What does that mean? Like, so that kids understand what it means to do that, and then we'll talk about your acting.
Okay. Writing actually came a lot after when I was in the middle of my career. I started writing about 20 years ago, maybe 18, 19 years ago. Being an intellectual's daughter, I can't claim myself that I'm a writer. I mean, I'm just a commercial writer, the drama writer. My father was a very big intellectual, very serious one. But there are lots of stories around us. All of us are witnessing so many things. But it's how you absorb the stories. It's how you develop them. And when the story develops, it's a difficult task to make a drama out of a story. Story is I think it's easier than the drama, because it's not that the stories who are writing stories, they're doing nothing. But the story is a simple thing. You can write about 1,000 houses are running, maybe 25,000 people are working, something, anything you can write. You're free to write anything in novel, in short story, whatever. But you have to show in the drama. So actually, I had a story in my mind. The first play I wrote, it was about 19 years ago. It was on the special Women's Day. So that plot was in my mind. I spoke to my husband, Iqbal Ansari. He was a big renowned journalist. So I told him, I said, this is a nice story, and I think we can ask some writer, some professional, proper writer to write it. I have this plot in my mind. He said, you try to write it first. I said, okay. I started writing, and the natural flow was, the flow was very natural. So it came out like a good long play. We call it long play, which is 90 minutes, 1.5 hours, something. So it was a big clap because it was very realistic. So whenever you write, even you write a short story or a drama, they're 2 different crafts, different techniques. Now in drama, we have to think about the feasibility, the finances, how many people we are casting, how much cost it will be, how many episodes we have to write, the screenplay, the dialogue, everything in Pakistan we do, one person. Otherwise, everywhere in the world, they have a team of screenwriters and dialogue writers and story writer, and they have a big
person doing it all. Wow.
Yes, so 7 months I took to write this serial, which is these days on air.
It still takes a lot of dedication. It takes a rigor, and it takes a discipline, and like just to have that patience to be able to finish that.
Yeah, actually, the thing is, which I think, which is very important to tell the kids, the new generation. I find myself very focused, maybe, surely, because whatever you do, you have to be focused and you have to be committed to your work, whatever you do. So the focus, like the other day, I was telling my niece, who's a very beautiful new star in Pakistan. Her name is Zara. She's very pretty, very expressive, and a beautiful face. I was just telling her about the acting. I said, I'm not trained. I have been doing this, but I didn't go to an academy. But even I know, because I have some relation with music too. and I have some learning, some maybe some knowledge about music a little. I said, when you just touch one chord of your piano, like uh, so you have to be concentrating on and when you do so that your acting graph gets down because you lose your focus. This is what is for every field, every work you do. The focus is the main thing, maybe for the teaching, for painting, for dance, for writing, everything. So what I find in my journey, I was focused.
How can you improve that focus? How
I
can you
could hear you.
keep that focus? How can you improve
Yeah,
it?
then you have to be very clever. Very clever.
Ah,
Just yes, you have to be very clever, be smart. I think first of all, whatever quality you have or talent you have, or um, whatever field, in whatever field. I mean, maybe in IT, you need to know yourself and your interest for the first, apart from everything. Then you need to fix your goals and achievements, that I want to go there. I won't be able to go or not go, that's something different, but I want to go there. So I have to go steady, and whatever comes in my way, on my way, I just need to concentrate on that. Then I will step next, then I will step next, then I will step next. I may not go reach there, but at least whatever is some in front of me in my plate, first I will just look at that this is what I have to conquer. Then after this plate, the next one, the next one. So maybe by the time uh, I was doing it, maybe I don't claim myself that I've been so intelligent at the age of 9 or 10 or maybe 20. I think it was naturally in me. Whatever comes in my way, and I'm interested in that. Yes,
ah.
not maths, not maths.
I bet if we taught you, you might be able to do something. I think you think mathematically and you're not realizing it. So,
Yeah. So
I
yeah.
yeah, and I think there's we had another podcast where the person was really talking about being the best you can be, and you're talking about the focus and just sticking with it, and that persistence and not worrying about it. Now these days, I find one of the major problems. The reason why I asked you about that is because we're losing our focus even as adults,
Yes.
but kids too. And with the computer and the TV and everything around us
Yes.
is training us just to do quick little things,
Yes.
and so our brains are almost getting lazy, is what I'm feeling like. Like just to get our brains to be able to do that seems to be
Yes.
harder.
Physically we are so comfortable. We have become so comfortable because of these technologies. There are many positive aspects of this, but I find it very negative because it makes you so lazy. Everything is done with a touch. You don't get up to turn off the fan. You don't. I mean, you just don't get up to turn off the TV. In our childhood, we used to go by public bus in school. Our kids did not go. So I think that has kept me strong up till now, because I used to walk for a long time. I mean, for long distance to my school. So that was a blessing now, I think. Now, these
Yes.
kids, I mean, they're lacking this. And since we can compare between the two eras, you and me, we have seen that generation. Now we are watching this too. So we keep on comparing both the things. But these kids are not to be blamed. Actually, they didn't see that.
That's right.
So this is what we have given them.
And what are our expectations? So we've got these new tools,
Yeah.
and yet we don't need to lessen our expectations of people. We can use the tools in many ways to make things bigger and easier to use, but yet we still have to do things ourselves. So
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
good. We don't have too much more time, but so I would like to just really redirect this a little bit, and I'd like to get your perspective on just the whole media, on the arts, the what's happening with television, what's happening with the shows right now, and where you see the future going. We're in the midst of this COVID. We have technology that's just come in. The whole world is thinking differently. They're working differently with even media and shows. Like if you look at all the different platforms that now people can access, it's not just TV anymore. And this COVID and what's happening? Where do you see it's going?
As far as our media is concerned in Pakistan, I think we are the fighters. In last many days, the things politically, economically, socially, we've been facing in different eras of different governments. If I talk about that perspective, I think we are the fighters, and because we survived in these circumstances, and we got somewhere. But overall, generally, people are very badly affected by this COVID thing all over the world. See, Hollywood was closed and Makkah was closed, and the big things we have seen this. So it has taken people to a certain psychological pressure, which is damaging for some years, at least for some few years more. But I think kids will be okay after a few years. I think we won't be able to get out of it totally, because this period, maybe 2 years, 3 years, God forbid, I don't know how many years. It has affected all of the whole world, but media especially. We used to attend operas, musical concerts, and big football matches, and the festivities, and that used to give us boost and enjoyment and fun and everything. So that has, now we have to surrender that. This is not a choice. So we can't be so happy, but we have to adjust, and we have to do whatever we can in these circumstances. We have no choice.
Thankful. Yeah.
We have to go through this.
Well, that's good. And what are you doing in terms of this? How are you dealing with this?
Yeah, this is tough one. This is a tough one. Actually, I just finished the project. I told you, the one which is on air now. So it was a long commitment for 7-8 months. 7 months for writing. Then I came here in America for a fundraiser show trip, Australia. Then I went back and shot it in 3 months. So it took me almost the whole year. I was otherwise planning to sit for some time, and I will plan maybe some songs or maybe some fun things, some other things. But I had a lot of time here, 4 months, more than 4 months. But my mind was gone so off. I could not do anything. The fear, the paranoia we all had to go through. Mm-hmm. Remember, in the beginning, in March, April, we were just scared of each other. I mean, we still are, but a little we have adjusted, sort of. Yes. So it was actually tough, and it is depressing too. Last week, or maybe from last 15 days, I can't stop crying. Maybe for no reasons. When I pray, I pray to God, then I have tears. Then I say, no, my kids are okay. I'm fine. I didn't have this coronavirus. But even that, whatever is around us, it's so depressing. We're sitting in the window. We can't go, and when we go to the elevator, we have to wear gloves. We can't touch anything. Then we have to we have to bring the groceries. We have to wash it. I mean, we are using our minds in so many other negative ways. So it actually hurts, and it is depressing. And I hope we can get out of this soon.
I hope so too. And I think really media and shows like what you can produce will help the whole world maybe come out of this and see that there still is a lot of hope. What we are talking about is releasing the genius in this world. And I want to finish with one thing from you. And that is, what can you tell the youth of today, or the children of today, on what does it mean to release their own genius?
I think every child is a genius in her or his own way. God has given everything to everyone, but you just have to find out what is special in you. This is my belief. You have to find out, then you have to just concentrate on that. Again, focus. and then you have to work on that. Don't distract yourself in other things. Just divide your time. Just plan your life, the studies, the fun time, the family time, the TV time, the computer time. This should be five. The eating time too, not every time
Mhm.
eating. And I mean, this should always also be a discipline thing. But you have to plan your life in a certain way that you can have every bit of life. You can enjoy, you can have fun, you can have studies, you can have respect by doing that. I mean, you get good scores in class, you are respected, you're
So
liked by your teachers, your friends, and you feel good, strong, nice. So that is the thing, that you have to stay away from distractions. Just do everything, but in a proper way, concentration. Then you will achieve and achieve and achieve and achieve happiness, success, money. Everything comes after you then.
So how do you, so you're basically saying to find it is really to do the best you can in whatever you're doing, and it will basically come out and you'll see that it's there.
Yes.
And why do you feel the need to give back with so many charity shows?
Why do you think what you said?
You give back in so many charity shows.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
why is that so important for you?
Yeah, it is actually the charity. I don't claim myself as a, I mean, people do a lot for people. People just, I mean, it's easy to do something for any charity organization to perform, and then they collect money. But I have seen big professional people, the doctors and the big professionals, they just leave their job and go in the remote areas of Pakistan. They teach in the schools. I mean, they give their own soul, and they're physically there. So I don't say claim anything about me like this, but I feel good. If people like me, love me, they come, they just get together somewhere to listen to me, to listen to my conversation or my songs or my performances, and then they donate for the hospital for a good cause. That gives me a big happiness for that. So from last about 20 years or 18 years, I was with Shaukat Khanam, with Imran Khan, then Human Development Foundation, the Citizen Foundation. Now I'm more associated with Indus Hospital, because they're doing good job in Pakistan, actually.
Great. Wow. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. I think we've all learned so much just by listening to you. You may think it's just simple things and things that would be obvious to everyone, but wow, there is so much there. Thank you so much, Busha.
Thank you, Kirsty, and thank you, Nathan. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you,
Thank you.
Busha. And what we'll do is we'll put in the description where they can find maybe some of your work, because I know a lot of people here in Toronto that aren't familiar with your work for sure are going to want to watch
Yeah,
some of
let's
it.
hope they also
Yeah.
get impressed.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So
Thank you.
the thing,
Thank you. Thank
you
you.
know,
Thank you.
what I get out of all of this is Bushra believed in herself from a young child, and she did all that she could, believing in what she was doing was the right thing, and she's using it now. What she does and what her genius is for others as well, so that others can use it, and it's not just for herself, that she's allowing others to use it for this charity work as well, and that's pretty phenomenal. And this has just been great.
And there's one more important thing I think I missed out. That when you get married in especially in Pakistan, you think now I have to only cook and I have to only wash dishes and I have to just look after the kids. You stop working maybe for some time or maybe never. I kept doing that. I never left my work, because I was not doing a job. It was not regularly every day 9 to 5 job. I used to take projects and I was handling the girls, both of them, myself. I was driving them to school. I was cooking. I had a help for other things, but I used to cook myself. I used to take both the girls to tuition. Even you'll be surprised to know, when I used to take up any foreign tour for the performances, I used to take the projects in summer vacations, so that I never left my girls at home. Never. For 2 months, they were traveling with me everywhere, but in their vacation. Otherwise, the whole year I used to refuse for the work. I said, no, I'm not going to leave my girls. So, side by side, I did everything with my family too. So that's the thing I want to tell the girls, that it's not that you can be single track. You can do 5 things together, but you have to just manage them. You have to learn how to manage them.
And
You
keep
can't,
them.
you should not leave the family behind. You
Yes.
should take everything with you. So that's the thing. I think I'm proud of that. That I could do that for at least 14 years. I drove them to school.
That's pretty phenomenal, and that says a lot about you as a person too, and that you weren't going to lose that, and you also weren't going to say it can't be done. There's a way to do it. You just have to figure it out. That's pretty
Yes,
cool.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Thank
pretty
you.
neat. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Releasing a Genius podcast, and we looking forward to you joining us next week.
And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you very much.